Good morning. Not bad, not bad. And welcome to worship with the Unitarian Universalist Church of Ventura. I am the Reverend Dana Worsnop, minister of this beautiful, diverse, blossoming community. We gather to keep love at the center of our lives and the way we move in the world. It is so good to see so many of you here, and welcome all of you on Zoom and YouTube. And no matter how you got yourself here, whether it was on foot, on wheels, on Zoom, streaming live, or next Wednesday, we are glad that you have joined us. We are a community of many beliefs, identities, origins, sexualities, and genders, and all are welcome here. We preface our service by acknowledging that our building rests on the unceded ancestral homelands of the Chumash peoples. Let us pause to remember that we live on ground that is sacred, ground that cries out for justice and for responsible stewardship. In so remembering, may we find the courage to do our part to restore wholeness to the earth and all her peoples. Just a couple of announcements. It is Flower Communion Sunday, and so you are welcome to bring, if you are still arriving, you're welcome to bring your flowers forward during the first hymn. And if you didn't bring a flower, there's plenty. So please participate. Also, after the service, we will have our annual meeting. It'll start at about 11:30 here. So go out for a little of coffee and conversation and a bagel, and then come back into the sanctuary. You will be cued about that starting. If you are a member of the congregation, please definitely come back. If you're new and you're curious about how this group organizes itself, you will learn a little bit about that. It'll also be on Zoom, so Zoomers, stick around. And General Assembly starts in a week and a half, and there's still time to register if you want to. We will also be joining the General Assembly worship. That is the gathering of the clan this year not for the first time, but it is on. It is going to be on Zoom. It's an entirely virtual General Assembly, so you could still register very easily and show up and do all the things. And on the 23rd, we're going to be streaming the General Assembly worship service at our regular time here in the sanctuary. And also, a quick note that some of the images that you will see on the magic screens are actually images by artists in this congregation, and they're hanging in the green room. So I like that one. Take a gander at it, and then go to the green room and see if you can find it. This is sacred ground. This is a sacred gathering. Whenever we gather, however we gather, blossoming and blooming, or coming with a heavy heart, and sometimes it's both. So let us, holding all of that, enter sacred space.
I'm Worship Associate Sue Brinkmeyer. We invite those of you who are streaming or however you're getting over the internet to us to light a chalice at home as Reverend Dana lights the chalice of our free faith here in the sanctuary. And today we're going to invite our children to lead us in the chalice lighting words they say in class each week and we invite you to follow along.
Just you. Here comes Alessandro.
We light this chalice to celebrate Unitarian Universalism. We are the Church of the open mind, the loving heart, and the helping hands. We care and each other. We begin our flower communion service with these words by Reverend Lynn Unger. What a gathering, the purple tongues of iris licking out at spikes of lupin, the orange crepe skirts of poppies lifting over buttercup and daisy. Who can be grim in the face of such abundance? There is nothing to compare. No need for beauty to compete. The voluptuous rhododendron and the plain grass are equally filled with themselves, equally declare the miracles of color and form. This is what community looks like. This vibrant jostle, stem by stem, declaring the marvelous joining. This is the face of communion. The incarnation once more gracefully resurrected from winter. Hold these things together in your sight. Purple, crimson, magenta, blue. You will be feasting on this long after the flowers are gone. Come, let us worship together.
I am Carolyn, Bjerke, music director, and I would like to welcome you all here in the sanctuary and online. Our opening hymn is Morning Has Broken, and I invite you to all rise and body your spirit and join in singing. And bring your flowers on down during the hymn if you still have it. Morning has broken like the first morning, like bird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the word. Sweet the rain's dew fall, sunlit from heaven, like the first dew fall on the first grass. Praise for the sweetness of the wet garden, sprung in completeness where God's feet pass. Light is the sunlight, bright is the morning, born of the one light, Eden's sunlight. Praise with elation, praise every morning, God's recreation of the new day.
So this service is called God, Nature Laughs in Flowers. And on our Earth Day service, we called it Breathing with Trees because the trees take in carbon dioxide and breathe out oxygen, which is just what we need, and we breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide, which is just what they need, and it's one of those nifty connections that works all the time. And this is our annual flower communion. And so, you know, Earth Laughs and Flowers is actually a line from a poem by Ralph Waldo Emerson. And Emerson is a famous, wise, old Unitarian. And most of the kids here today probably haven't heard of him, but there is a very good chance that you will you will hear about him somehow. If you get all the way through high school, Emerson is going to be somebody you will read something of. It's a lot of words. He's very wise, lots of words. And remember, he's a Unitarian. Okay? And you just got to trust me on all of that. You will. But I realized a little later that we could have called this service Laughing with Flowers. We breathed with trees, and now we get to laugh with some flowers. And our flower communion was created by another famous, wise, old Unitarian minister named Norbert Chopek. He believed in the importance of beauty in the world. And even when bad things happen, perhaps most especially when bad things happen, we need beauty. He also believed in the power of community, of people coming together, each one like a beautiful flower, to create our own bouquets. Chopek knew that together we become more happy and more powerful, and we laugh more deeply and long. And see if you can find the ways that people are more happy together in the story that Lily is about to share.
My name is Lily Rappaport. I'm the Director of Family Ministry, and I'm going to call up all those young or young at heart to come sit up front here as we tell today's story. So today's story is called Wanda's Roses, and it's written by Pat Brisson, illustrated by Marianne Cocker Feller. One morning, Wanda noticed a bush in the empty corner lot. It must have been growing for a while because it was about 2 feet high, and Wanda was surprised that she hadn't noticed it before. But there it was, bare and thorny. A rose bush, my very own rose bush. Now, the rose bush didn't really belong to Wanda, but since nobody seemed to own the lot or the junk that was piled there, she decided that she would care for that bush. Wanda wondered if it needed more sun, so she began dragging some of the trash out into the curb. Mrs. Turner was on her way to the store, and she saw Wanda. Cleaning up the neighborhood? Oh, I'm not just cleaning. I'm helping my rose bush to get more sun so it will bloom. Your rose bush? Said Mrs. Turner. Wanda pointed proudly to the bare, thorny bush. I'm not so sure that's a rose bush, said Mrs. Turner. Sure it is, said Wanda, and in a few weeks this lot will be full of roses. Good luck, said Mrs. Turner, but she thought to herself, if that's a rose bush, then I'm the Queen of England. The next day, Wanda's rose bush was still bare and thorny. Maybe it needs more air, Wanda thought. So she took more trash to the curb so it wouldn't block the air to the rose bush. Mr. Claudel saw Wanda, and he stopped to help her carry an old door. Cleaning up the neighborhood? Not just cleaning, I'm getting rid of this trash so that my rose bush will get more air. And she showed him the rose bush. I don't know much about gardening, said Mr. Claudel, but I don't think that is a rose bush. Sure it is. And in a few weeks, this lot is going to be filled with the sweetest roses that you ever saw. Thank you for helping. And she went off to drag more trash to the curb. Mr. Claudel shook his head. If that's a rose bush, then I'm the King of France. Wanda worked very hard every day, and Mrs. Giamatti from the apartment next door gave Wanda trash bags for the shoes and the bottles and the broken toys that she picked up. You've done such a great job cleaning, said Mrs. Giamatti. Oh, I'm not just cleaning, Wanda said. I'm getting rid of trash so that my rosebud can get enough sun and fresh air. Where's your rose bush? And Wanda showed her. Oh, that's not a rose bush. Yes, it is. And soon this lot will be filled with the most beautiful roses that you ever saw. Well, that would be nice, said Mrs. Giamatti, but she thought that was not a rose bush, and that never will be. When the rose bush still wasn't blooming, Wanda talked to her school librarian. I need some books about getting roses to bloom. Oh, you have a rose bush, said Mrs. Jones. Yes, but it doesn't have flowers yet. I know it has enough sun and fresh air. Does it have enough water? Water! Of course, that'll make it bloom. So Wanda rushed to the rose bush. Don't worry, little bush. I'll get you some water, and then you'll grow flowers. Wanda asked the butcher next door if he'd give her some water for her rose bush. Rose bush? Is that what I see you taking care of every day? Are you sure that's a rose bush? Oh, yes, I'm sure, but it needs water. Mr. Sanchez gave her water in a plastic bucket. I hope that really is a rose bush, he said, looking doubtfully. In a few weeks, the whole lot will be full of roses. In a few weeks, that thorn bush will still be a thorn bush. Every day, Wanda watered her rosebud, sang to it, cherished its bare branches, and looked for roses. Mr. Claudel stopped to see if there were any roses yet. Mrs. Turner stopped to see if there were any roses yet. Mrs. Giamatti called down from her apartment to ask if there were any roses yet. And Mr. Sanchez, the butcher, asked if there was roses yet. And to each person, Wanda answered the same thing. Just you wait. Soon this whole lot will be full of roses. Soon, Wanda had an idea. If my rose bush won't give roses to me, I'll just have to give roses to my rose bush. And when she saw Mrs. Turner, Mr. Claudel, Mrs. Giamatti, and Ms. Jones, and Mr. Sanchez, she gave them each an invitation that read, please come for tea and muffins in Wanda's Rose Garden, Saturday morning at 9. Oh dear, said Mrs. Turner. Is she still expecting to get roses from that bush? Oh no, said Mr. Claudel. She works so hard. And Mrs. Giamatti said, she'll be so disappointed. Mr. Sanchez wondered, there must be something that I can do. And Ms. Jones, the librarian, said, oh good, because she had only heard about the bush from Wanda and she hadn't seen it for herself. I'll bring the muffins. The night before the tea party, everyone was busy. And the next morning, everyone was surprised to see Wanda's rose bush covered with roses. Paper roses that Wanda had made herself and carefully tied to each bare, thorny branch. But more surprising, everyone who came to the party brought along a rosebud bush to plant near Wanda's, except Mrs. Jones, who brought delicious blueberry muffins. And after they ate their muffins and drank their tea, they started planting the rose bushes. They dug holes, placed in the bushes, filled in the soil around the roots, and watered them thoroughly. And when the work was done, Mr. Claudel said, this is going to be a rose garden fit for a king. "Or a queen," said Mrs. Turner, and everyone smiled. Later that summer, the whole lot was filled with the biggest, most beautiful, sweetest smelling roses that anyone had ever seen, just as Wanda had always said that it would be. And now we're going to make our own flowers. If you would rise in the middle aisle and sing the children out to their gardens.
We hold you in our love as you go, as you go. May your heart be at peace as you go. To nurture the spark of your precious life. We hold you in our love as you go. We hold you in our love as you go, as you go. May your heart be at peace as you go. To nurture the spark of your precious life. We hold you in our love as you go.
One of the many ways that this community spreads the beauty and love throughout the community is by giving away our offering each week to an organization in the larger community or to funds that help people in our own church. Those of you at home can give by the link posted in the chat or by texting from your phone to assist at 844-901-1779, and that number should be on your screen. Folks here in the sanctuary can put a check or cash in the box on the wall at the back of the sanctuary on your way out of church, or you too can text to the number on your screen. Our offering today goes to our own Moving In, a ministry of Lift Up Your Voice to End Homelessness. It provides all the household goods and furniture needed to turn an empty apartment into a home for someone who is finally getting a safe place to live. Our wonderful Lift Up Your Voice volunteers meet newly housed clients and their case managers at the storage garages that contain donated furniture and household goods. The clients get to pick out the items they want for their new home. One gentleman helped recently was a veteran who had been living in the river bottom. When the last piece of furniture, a beautiful black glass dining table, was set up in his new East Ventura home, his eyes welled with tears of gratitude for the gift of home. Our Moving In ministry began 4 years ago in the midst of the pandemic. As of last month, this amazing program has assisted 541 households, turning apartments into welcoming homes for 939 people, including 94 veterans and 320 children. Yes. And I see many of you looking over at its leader, Kathy Powell. Thank you for giving generously, as you always do.
in the garden, in the moonlight. Will you pardon me? Come tiptoe through the tulips with me.
Yeah, thank you. We all got to laugh with some flowers tiptoeing through the tulips and giggling just a little. We're so grateful for the collective generosity of this congregation, which weaves a beautiful, colorful, blossoming, blooming tapestry of love that we call community.
Taking time in the service to share with one another the great joys and sorrows that grace our lives is yet another way we weave that tapestry of love. We place stones in water for both the celebrations and sorrows in our hearts, making ripples that are felt throughout the community. I invite you now to speak into the gathered community or write into the Zoom chat the names of those you wish to celebrate or memorialize or bring into the loving embrace of this beloved community. Reverend Dana will now place one final stone in the water for all the joys and sorrows just shared and those yet unspoken in the silent sanctuary of our hearts. May we be truly grateful for all that is our life.
So we are about to sing a hymn that was written by Norbert Chapek, who was the inventor, creator of our flower communion. And it was written in the 1920s. And so and also just want to note, it's called Mother Spirit, Father Spirit. It is a little gender binary. And I want to hold that up, but also I want to say it was written in the 1920s. And not only did he talk about Mother Spirit, but he put her first. And he was pretty radical in his day, and it's still actually, unfortunately, a little radical in ours. So I invite you to join in, take this one in all the ways that it goes in.
Mother Spirit, Father Spirit, where are you? In the sky song, in the forest sounds your cry. What to give you, what to call you, what am I? Many drops are in the ocean deep and wide. Sunlight bounces off the
We offer two readings this morning. The first is by Norbert Chopek. He was a gentleman, a poet, a writer of hymns. He was also a deep believer in the necessity for beauty in human lives. It was perhaps part... No, you are needed. Get over here.
Sorry, guys.
No, see? Okay. No, yeah, no worries. Anyway, and it takes many to create community, and you are deeply needed, my dear. And it was the sense of community, the sense of beauty created in community by community, that was perhaps part of what gave him the strength to be a voice of resistance against the Nazis in the 1930s. We will hear more about that soon. Here are his words of resistance and hope. It is worthwhile to live and fight courageously for sacred ideals. Oh, blow ye evil winds into my body's fire, my soul you'll never unravel. Even though disappointed 1,000 times or fallen in the fight, and everything would worthless seem, I have lived amidst eternity. Be grateful, my soul. My life was worth living. He who was pressed from all sides, but remained victorious in spirit, is welcomed into the choir of heroes. He who overcame the fetters, giving wing to the mind, is entering into the golden age of the victorious. There you are.
Second is very short, from songwriter Phil Ochs. In such ugly times, the only true protest is beauty.
I invite you now into a time of meditation. Close your eyes or soften your gaze. Notice your breath. Let it fall into a natural rhythm. How do you maintain your hope and strength? Where do you seek and find beauty? A silent meditation.
Winter's on the wing, here's a fine spring morn. Coming clear through the night comes the May, I say. The winter's taking flight, sweeping dark, cold air out to sea. Spring is born, come the day, I say, and you'll be here to see it. Stand and breathe it all the day. Stoop and feel it, stop and hear it. Spring, I say. And now the
In such ugly times, the only true protest is beauty. Powerful protest, honey. There is much division, vitriol, blaming, threats to democracy, indeed, too much ugliness in our common life. I don't usually immediately think of beauty as a protest. I think of protests and signs with righteous sayings. And yet, when I think of beauty, when I think of the beauty of human kindness, generosity, the capacity to love, I realize such beauty is a protest in the face of malign forces. Next time you go to a protest, just hold up a sign that says beauty. Luckily, there are so many ways to be beautiful, to experience the beauty that can calm the soul and shine through and beyond any ugliness. That is something that our forebear, Norbert Čapek, knew well. He was indeed a poet and a writer of songs and a preacher of truth. He knew so deeply, right in his face, the ugliness that humans can create. He even died at the hands of it. Yet he sought and found the beauty in the world and all her peoples. Čapek was one of those people who was a Unitarian all his life and didn't know it. It would have been pretty hard because there weren't any Unitarians in Czechoslovakia, or even in before there was a Czechoslovakia, there was Austro-Hungary, where he was from. And he was born 150 years ago. He was raised as a Catholic, but became a Baptist minister as a young man because it was as close to Unitarian as he could find. But as a good future Unitarian, he just kept asking questions and kept wondering about things like God and the Spirit and what really matters and how important each individual is. And it kept getting him in trouble. But he was also a very good minister, and people loved to hear him preach, partly because he was a truth teller. And Čapek was fairly quickly appointed the superintendent over all the Baptist churches in Hungary. But this small U Unitarian kept getting him in trouble. Baptist authorities charged him with heresy more than once. He gave up the ministry because of all of this in 1910, and then he became a journalist, which is not necessarily a great way to stay out of trouble. And in 1914, Čapek wrote an article predicting that war was coming to Europe. He was blacklisted and warned to leave the country immediately. They're way too early. Can somebody tell them that we're about 7 or 8 minutes out? Please. We're working on getting the timing of kids coming and going. And you can't see their lovely faces, but they're pressed up against the door. And I'm like, no! They'll be standing there for just a little bit longer. So he was told to leave, get out, because people are coming for you. And so Čapek brought his family to America, and he then accepted Baptist pulpits in New York and New Jersey, but the American Baptist councils didn't like his truth-telling any more than the Europeans had liked it. Then he found a Unitarian church in New Jersey, and his life was never the same. He got ordained by the American Unitarian Association at the time, and then he went back to what was now Czechoslovakia after World War I and started a Unitarian church there. A church completely different than any the Czechs had ever seen, and it grew to more than 3,000 members. And in that congregation, Čapek created the flower communion because the people wanted a ritual that had nothing to do with God the Father or with the priests telling them what to do. Čapek wrote in 1923, after the first flower communion, quote, "I emphasize our common cause, our belonging together as one spiritual community, as brethren. And when they went home, each took one flower just as it came, without making any distinction where it came from or who it represented, to confess that we accept one another as brothers and sisters without regard to race, class, or other distinction. Acknowledging everybody is as our friend who is human and wants to be good." Čapek called the people in his congregation member flowers, emphasizing their individual beauty and gifts while acknowledging the importance of community and communion with others. Čapek's message that we are all brothers and sisters didn't go over well with everyone, especially after the Nazis invaded Czechoslovakia in the 1930s. But by now, Čapek was used to getting in trouble. There are wonderful stories about him and how he interacted with the Nazis. Stories about how the Nazi secret police, the SS, came banging on his door one evening, and Čapek invited them in for tea. And stories of Čapek continuing to preach a message of peace and individual worth and value, even when the SS came to church on a Sunday morning and stood in their uniforms lined up across the back of the sanctuary. He ignored them and kept right on going. Čapek knew he would likely be arrested, and he was. He was taken to Dachau concentration camp, where he kept composing hymns, creating more beauty. And his fellow prisoners would march around inside the barbed wire fences, singing loudly. I don't know that they had materials for signs that said, "Sing." The Nazis tolerated this only so long. And on October 30th, 1942, Norbert Čapek was executed, a martyr for free religious faith. Yes, there are Unitarian martyrs, people who have died for what they believed, what we value most profoundly. Our times are not as dire as Europe in the 1930s. Yet totalitarianism is rising throughout the world and in our beloved land. We are being called to rise before it and speak our truth. We remember Čapek for his courage, yet even more, we remember him for his simple and powerful ritual that Unitarians participate in around the world. No doubt, Čapek would have preferred to go on living, bringing the light and hope of community to all the people. He was not just a Unitarian martyr. He was a minister, a preacher, a singer, and a writer of hymns, a lover of beauty, a lover of life. He was a pastor who cared about people and about religious freedom, and who cared about the beauty of a single flower. We tell Čapek's story again and again for many reasons. One, because our flower communion is tender and beautiful, and it's a ritual of community and strength in diversity. It was created in a time when it was radical and even dangerous to speak out about such things. By a man of courage and conviction, it is far more than a pretty and sweet ritual, though it is that too. We tell Chopek's story because we also live in times when our truth and our story is radical and necessary in the world. We will need each other, and in all our beauty, diversity, and strength, the faith and the truths we seek are as important and vital today as they have ever been. What I love about the flower communion is that it acknowledges us as individual member flowers. Within this collective undertaking of creating community, there is such beauty in both. There we create a powerful bouquet that includes our children who have been out creating flowers to lay on our altar. And I welcome y'all in. Come on. Just lay them on the table. Yeah. Oh my gosh, look how beautiful they are. Okay. Thank you. Just lay it right here. I'm going to turn them this way. Yeah. Okay, you get to go back and join your family. Thank you. Chopek knew about the power and beauty of community, and the Unitarian Universalist Church of Ventura is just such a powerful and beautiful community. These flowers are powerful and beautiful too. They represent the power of a peacefully gathered community to rise up for what is right. May this flower communion again remind you there is strength in our diversity. There is strength in the love that we bring into the world. May we always remember the power and beauty of community. May we all carry that power and beauty through all our days. Amen. And may it be so. And so now we get to do flower communion, all of us together. The flowers arrayed before us this morning are a perfect symbol for community. Colorful, rich, imperfect, beautiful. I do defy you to find a perfect rose. But I know you can find many beautiful ones, and sunflowers and hydrangeas and daisies and carnations and all kinds of other lilies and things. Many, many, many. Norbert Chopek knew about the power of community and the power of beauty. He created this as a symbol of the power, grace, and beauty that we all create when we come together. We begin with a litany blessing of this community. Oh, go here. You have a response.
On the screen. We celebrate the beauty in us all and let us go forth. We bless this community.
We remember the power of gathering together, becoming more than we are alone, and
we bless this community. We speak for peace, kindness, and generosity, and we bless this community.
And finally, all together, let us go forth
and bless the world.
So if what you can do is, we're going to come forward and do our flower communion. If what you can do is come forward down the sides and then take a flower, however it comes to you. There's lots here. And then go back up the center aisle. And this will work for the people who are on Zoom. So we don't block the flowers so much and they get to see your smiling faces as you head out this way. So come forward down these aisles, up the middle, take a flower. There was a protest in the 60s called Flower Power. Flower Power.
Please rise in body or spirit and join in singing our closing hymn, For the Beauty of the Earth.
Please join me in reading the words on the screen as we prepare to extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment, those we carry into our lives until we are together again. All of you here in the sanctuary today are invited for coffee, tea, bagels, and conversation in our community room, Berg Hall, through both sets of doors. Also, all visitors and guests are invited to stop by the connecting table right through those doors, big round table, sign overhead. There'll be people waiting to chat with you. And then we invite you all back here at 11:30 for our annual meeting, and that will also be on Zoom. So please do stay around for that, our Zoomers. If you are new, again, we invite you to check out what we do in our annual meeting. You just don't get to vote, but we welcome you to be with us. And there are a few flowers left, so if you wish, add them to your bouquet to take them home.
I leave you with words adapted from the Reverend Amy Zucker Morgenstern. Upon the lips of each flower, the laughter of beauty. Within the heart of a flower, a fountain of joy. Upon the lips of community, the laughter of true connection. Within the heart of the community, a fire that warms and dances. Upon the lips of each of us, the laughter of recognition. Within the heart of each of us, a spark of the spirit of life. All of it, holy, holy, holy. Go forth in peace. Flower power. Come on. Come on. Go forth in peace. Go forth in love. Go forth with laughter in your heart. May it be so.
How are you? Good. How are you? I'm glad to see you today.